Union of Comoros, and on my own behalf, these are paramount areas to give Africa all that it needs in order to become a world power in the near future. Africa indeed possesses, as everybody is aware of, Africa possesses all the necessary resources, going from petroleum to gas, minerals, and also sunshine, and also a burgeoning youth population, and also arable land in order to ensure its sovereignty in terms of food, and also to contribute to the world prosperity. Aside that, the continent has a more and more dynamic private sector. To this, I would like to recognize the presence of several enterprise leaders, business leaders to this dialogue. Listening to their various contributions, I have realized that what they need the most is a united Africa, capable of transforming its potential and its wealth for the well-being of its people. That is why I call on everybody for a more united support in order to heighten our resilience, namely in some countries through adequate infrastructure, and also to establish a better political stability and facilitate access to capital. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly allow me to remind that in 2023, the Union of Comoros, my country, presided over the African Union Conference, and I was mandated to accelerate AFTFC. And I'm glad to tell you that, just as you said before me, there's been huge progress made, and very soon it will constitute a huge market that will serve as a springboard to African businesses, giving them the opportunity to develop and go beyond the borders of the continent in order to stimulate the economic growth, in order to build a continent that is more integrated and international. The responsibility and expectations are many, be it for the private sector or the public sector, who need to work in close collaboration in order to achieve the Africa we want. A single African market of more than 1.3 billion people, of $450 billion, will make Africa the hugest platform of exchange in the world since the creation of the World Trade Union. So this is an unprecedented opportunity for intra-African trade to contribute to take many Africans out of extreme poverty. Of course, intra-African trade represents just 15% of the total trade of the continent. However, by ensuring the free movement of goods and people, just as was mentioned earlier, we can use trade as a catalyst for the economic transformation of our dear continent. To this effect, I would like to acknowledge the effort of the Ghana, who took away the visa requirement for most African countries. And this is what we need to do on the entire continent in order to achieve a real integration and deliver that single market. Thank you very much for your kind attention to the prosperity of Africa. By mobilizing partners in a public-private partnership, by committing ourselves to the Agenda 2063 of African Union. Therefore, through a presidential decree in 2020, I started a private-public dialogue in order to establish the necessary environment and conditions and provide an adequate climate for economic growth and inclusion of our country. Today, the public sector and the private sector, together with technical financial partners, are working hand in hand in order to implement the priorities of the country by favoring trust, transparency, in order to collaborate to tackle the problems our citizens are faced with, namely the fight against poverty, expensive life, and also merging together our enterprises. This collective mobilization is part of our vision to put our country, Comoros, among the emerging country by 2030. And this is also aligned with the AU agenda of 2063, and also the project of the continent to transform the continent to become an economic powerhouse. The African Union, of which Comoros is part, also shows some fragile states, but we do have resources and potentials, especially due to the vast maritime space that we have. That is why we've also welcomed the Conference of Ministers on Blue Economy and collaboration in order to accelerate the work of FTCFC, in order to promote trade in Africa and also development of maritime transport, which is one of the key elements for achieving African economic integration. I want to call on all the private sector stakeholders to come to Comoros in order to prospect for the numerous opportunities that are available on our island, and especially in the blue economy. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear gathering, this African Prosperity Dialogue is actually taking place while the world is going through a technological transition, which is also plagued with various crises. Africa, our dear continent, just like the rest of the world, is still faced with challenges of divisions and bloody conflict that causes a lot of death and also drive us into desperation and desolation. In this context, allow me to express our entire solidarity with our brother countries that are in crisis and to renew our commitment towards silencing the guns, especially in the area of the Great Lakes, Libya, Sudan, and unite our forces in order to eradicate terrorism in all its shapes in the Sahel region. In a world that is much more troubled, Africans that we are, we need more than ever unite ourselves in order to build a reconciled Africa that is open to the world. Only an honest dialogue among the various people at conflict towards peace and security will enable the population to take up the challenge of development and build the Africa we want, an Africa that is integrated, peaceful, and prosperous. I'd like to seize this opportunity to acknowledge the issue of ceasefire in Gaza, but also to condemn the victims of the crisis in the genocide in Gaza, and make sure that Palestine and Israel should live together in peace and security. So that's what we should work towards. I call on the Russian president and Ukrainian leader to renew the peace agreement to put an end to the war in their region, a war that is unfortunately economically having an impact on the rest of the world. It's on this hope that I wish you fruitful deliberation. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen.